All right, now it's time to actually start doing the hard work and start putting this information into action. So here's what we're going to do. A quick refresher of the Senjou A and B signals. Those are the cloud signals. And then we're going to spend the rest of this video actually going back into the charting software and testing and starting to interpret these cloud signals. So let's do a quick reminder here. If the price is above the cloud, we're bullish. Price is below the cloud, we're bearish. If we are in the cloud from above, we're bullish. If we're in the cloud from below, we're bearish. If you've got thick clouds, then likely there's a consolidation coming. If we've got thin clouds, this is a potential turning point. And then, of course, each cloud represents support and resistance. And a flat Senjou B represents a future support and resistance. Okay? So with that as a quick backdrop, now you've kind of got your punch list. Let's get over and let's actually look at how these signals work together. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to come over here to Trade Nav. And you can do this with Motive Wave. You can do this with any good charting software. You can certainly do it with, what's the one that I'm forgetting? Thinkorswim. You can do it with TradeStation. You can do it with any charting software that lets you do historical replay. It is really, really important that we do this in historical replay. And here's why. Take a look at this picture and tell me, how much future cloud data are we getting right now? We're getting zero because we can't see the future cloud. So in order for this thing to work, you've got to see 26 days of zero data, and you can't get that just scooting your chart over. So some of you who've been a little bit stubborn in the past, and you say, well, I don't want to go get a charting software. This is one of those examples where you really need the charting software because of the features that it provides. And this is one of those features where we have the historical replay. You truly cannot do this that I'm about to do without having this feature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, and I figured we'd do about a year's worth of time just from December to December. And we're going to do the same currency pair. This is, what is this? Aussie Canadian dollar. So we're going to do the Aussie CAD, and I just chose to do currency tonight. I wanted to switch it up a little bit because I got some of you that are Forex traders and some of you are stock traders, and this works for both, so it doesn't really matter. But we're going to be looking at odd CAD tonight, and what we're going to do is we're going to work through the signals, and we're just learning it. That's all we're doing. We're learning it. And I want to put a big disclaimer at the start here. The purpose here is not to say where do I buy and where do I sell. That is not the purpose. Please hear me. The purpose is not to say where do I buy and where do I sell. The purpose is simply to start getting a visual interpretation of the signals. We're going to get the buy-sell signals when we start to combine them, and we're going to get the buy-sell signals when we start to put a system together in class number 3 next week. For tonight, all I'm trying to do, again, is I'm trying to get you the skill set of interpreting the data, and I'm showing you a trick of how you do this. If you don't do something like this, you may spend years trying to figure out the system. So this is the way that we do it. What I'm going to do on this chart is I'm going to get rid of everything that is not the cloud. That means I'm getting rid of Tenkan, I'm getting rid of Kijun, I'm getting rid of the Chiku, and all we have is the cloud itself. Now what we're going to do is we're going to run this forward. And the benefit of running this forward is as we go, we're going to start to get the signals, and we'll start to talk about and interpret the data that we see presented in the cloud. Okay? So here we go. Karen thinks that was cool how the Chiku line looked. All right, Karen, let me drink some coffee here, and then we're going to go. 1 second. All right, I feel a whole lot better now that I have some good Starbucks in my system. All right, so what we're going to do, if you're not familiar with this process, this is a back trading process, and all we're doing is we've gone back in time. It's December 2013. We're going to go trade for the next year moving forward, and I'm literally going for 12 months, December to December. And we're going to use these tools up here. Now, when I'm testing candlestick patterns, I'm only going 1 day forward at a time. But whenever I'm testing something like this, we may go ahead and press the play button and let it run forward, because the truth is going day by day is really a waste of time. You need to add multiple days at a time. So I will run it forward, and we won't go candle by candle for all of it. But the first thing we want to do is we want to start the interpretation. And so just looking backwards, we can see for several months we were below the cloud. And remember, let me say another thing here. I think I said this earlier, but I'll say it again. Just because it's shaded red doesn't mean bearish. Just because it looks red here doesn't inherently mean bearish. All it means is that the Senjou A is below the B. Just because it's blue doesn't mean it's specifically bullish. It just means that the A is above the B. That's all that the shading does. The signal is when the price itself is either below or above the cloud. So the signal line is the price line crossing Senjou B. So that's why the Senjou B line is really marked out dark bold here, because I wanted to be able to bring your attention to it. So those are the signals. Coming back into the cloud, that's not a bearish signal itself. The signal is crossing below Senjou B or crossing above Senjou B. That's the signal that we get with the cloud. Okay, so let's do some quick kind of catch up on this. We've been bearish from about somewhere before June. Let's see how far back there. We started in May of 13, and we had a nice little bearish trend that we were below the clouds for all of that. And then we broke up above the clouds the first time. We poked our heads above the cloud tops around September 2013. We had a breakout. We came back down. We retested Senjou B as support. You see that? There's a flat Senjou B right there. And we tested that as support, which is very typical in the breakout. And then what happened? We got our Morningstar reversal candle formation, and it continued. One brief word on candlestick formations as it relates to Forex, because we're trading Forex here. You're not going to see some of the gaps that you're used to seeing with stock in Forex because it's a 24-hour market. So you don't see a full, you see a very small gap here, but you don't see a full gap right there for that Morningstar reversal because it's a 24-hour market. So I wanted to make that specification to you. So we got a Morningstar reversal at a support, and what happened? The trend continued. Now notice we were above the clouds, Morningstar reversal at support, bullish trend. I think that was a pretty clean signal. What do you guys think? Was that a pretty clean variation there? I think that one worked fairly well. Now let's move forward here, and sorry, I read somebody's comment, and I was looking to see if you guys agreed that it was a pretty good signal, and I read Kelly's comment. She said she bit off an elephant when she went to Fibs and 4 without going to FOSO. Yeah, you did, Kelly. Sorry. All right, so Kelly, we're still bullish, and the fact that we're above the clouds, even though we're retracing in through here, we're above the clouds, so we're still bullish. But what did our candles start to tell us? We obviously started to see consolidation. The other thing that started to happen during that period is the cloud has started to consolidate, and it's giving us a big, thick cloud moving forward. So what could that indication be moving forward? Now that we're starting to see that, we're noticing that around December of 2013, this big cloud may be setting up consolidation. Now, consolidation does not have to be in the cloud. It can be through the cloud like this. You're going to start to notice as we move forward that supports and resistance will start to shape up off these little swing highs. So we may get, I don't know where this is going, but we may get a consolidation that looks something like this. We may get something that's below the cloud. We can get all sorts of variations of that nature, but it's a consolidation, generally speaking, when you see a thick cloud like this. Also notice on the chart right now, we've got a potential breakout point around the first part of the year coming up, because that's where the lines are crossing. So there's a good chance that something big could break moving into that time frame. Okay, so let's move this sucker forward, and I'm going to have to go quickly or else we're going to run out of class time. So let's move this thing forward a little bit. Notice the candles are moving up, and what are we doing here? We're kind of We're consolidating. That's exactly what we're doing. So let's just move it forward, and we've now gone about a week's worth of time with a lot of consolidation. Now we get a candlestick, and that general formation is relatively bearish. You guys are familiar with that. So don't be surprised if being below the clouds and with this candlestick signal, we start to get some sort of a bearish breakdown here. And perhaps the fact that we've got a red cloud moving forward might suggest that there's going to be some bearishness moving forward here. So, sure enough, there it is. There's your bearish candle. You notice that your clouds are going in the same direction primarily. But as we start here, notice that the Senjou B is actually going flat. So we're, for whatever reason, we're not making a lower low on that. And the Senjou A is still heading down at a pretty good angle, okay? So I've got my eyes kind of targeted around the 1st of January. I think something big is going to happen somewhere around here. Also, look to the left and notice we've got support right there. Okay, so we're coming into some support. So this could become a problem as we move forward. Let's see what happens. Little spinning top, a little doji at support. That's typically a slowdown signal for sure. Another bearish candle, and the trend is doing well. But now we got a little bullish. That's probably a tweezer bottom is what we'll call that candlestick formation. So let's move it forward. There's a little bearish candle inside the previous bullish candle. Another little bullish candle. Long upper shadows. This is obviously a consolidation. And notice where it's consolidating. It kind of looks like a flag, so maybe it breaks as a bearish trade, but look where it's happening. It's happening right at support. I think that's a pretty good signal. I mean, that was somewhat forecasting for us. What do you think? Was that pretty good forecast, Christy? I think that was a pretty good signal for us. Okay, so let's move forward here. Remember, usually plus or minus 3 to 5 days around turning points, we typically have a break. It doesn't always happen, but typically it happens. And so let's see what happens. Next day we got a little doji. Next day moving forward, more dojis. A little hammer candlestick, so that's somewhat bullish. Next day we've got a little bullish candle. It's a bullish engulfing. So, we're obviously building support here throughout the last half of December. I think that's a pretty decent signal that we're getting here. Just a lot of turning. Now, this could play out a couple ways. The fact that we're at support, it could be bullish. The fact that it's more of a stair-step chart pattern, which brings in some of our foundations training, could be bearish. So, I think this could go either way. We'll just keep trading it and see what happens here. Next day, we got another little candlestick. Next day, we got another little candlestick. Now, notice we're actually right on the turning point. So I'm really anticipating we're going to break up or down in the next day or two here. A little bearish candle. There's a pretty good size bullish candle. Very good size bullish engulfing with a very long lower shadow. Again, all that is happening at support here. So we've just kind of created a line right here, right at support. Very clear and very good signal. Now moving forward, what happens? Okay, we got a long upper shadow, so maybe that selling pressure is still there. We may retrace all the way over to the cloud. This is a possibility as well. So let's just keep trading it forward. Let's not get too anxious. And there's some bullishness. Oh, look at that. Okay, so that's pretty good bullishness right there around that turning period. The cloud, obviously, is anticipating some more consolidation coming up somewhere over here around the first part of February. So we're kind of getting into some large, it looks like a lot of consolidation. That's really what I'm kind of anticipating looking at that there. All right, I think there's a big bullish candle right up to our resistance. Look at that, right up to resistance. So there's a good signal. And we broke out. We got a long upper shadows right at resistance. That's pretty bearish candle. And let's see what happens as we've hit the top of the cloud. Now remember, when you trade into the cloud, from the bottom, it's a bearish implication. The cloud itself is very much neutral, very weak bearish. You see that. You see that's what the suggestion is. But the candles in the cloud, shooting star, bearish candles, that's fairly bearish. And the fact that we entered the cloud from the bottom is more of a bearish candle. Okay? So let's continue moving forward here. And there's a bearish candle, sure enough, okay? Long lower shadows, but other than that, it's all things pretty bearish. Now, notice what's happening here. The clouds are coming in. We've got what looks like we got a lot of consolidation. So again, consolidation can happen below the cloud. It can happen above the cloud. But the cloud, the thickness is suggesting first part of February, maybe there's going to be some consolidation happening here. So let's just run this in here and see what happens. There's some bullishness came in. Back to resistance. Notice we're back at resistance here. And notice I'm not trying to pick a direction. I'm just showing you the signals as they show up. This is how you interpret or how you learn to interpret signals moving forward. Okay, so we're just moving through here. And what's happening? Look at that. We've got 1, 2, 3 back and forth. 1, 2, 3. That's all consolidation coming into the beginning of February. I think that was a pretty good indication. I think that worked out fairly well. Okay, so let's keep going here. And next candle is a little bearish candle, a little bullish candle. Let's see if we start to get some momentum here. We may continue for another week or two into February, but we're going to have to at some point have a break. So, okay, that might be it. Let's see what happens. First of all, let's start to interpret signals here. We do have a little crossover here. We're back to Senjou A is on top of B. We've obviously got some support that's happening right here. It's happening on a couple different signals. We've got a good bullish candle above the cloud, so we're starting to get a lot more bullish, and we got good bullish candlesticks in general. But we're above this recent resistance, but we're kind of right here at some immediate resistance that, is providing some of that congestion for us. So let's see what happens as we move forward. A little spinning top candle. There's a long upper shadow, but a big white candle. Pretty bullish, all things considered. And look at the cloud. Look what's happening. The cloud is taking off at a higher angle. The Senjou B is suggesting that, hey, this is a moderately strong trend. Okay, so again, all we're doing here is starting to interpret data. This is all we're doing, just interpreting the signals as they start to come onto the screen. So let's see what happens next. Generally speaking, though, what would we say? We would say, generally speaking, we're bullish. We're above the clouds. The lines are moving upwards. And so all things considered, we're pretty bullish from this signal right here. So let's move forward and see what happens as we chug forward. There's a big bullish candle. Moving, the clouds are moving forward. Now, I'm concerned about this, because, like I said, these crossovers, wherever the price action is, it doesn't have to happen right here. Wherever the price is, just like we saw down here, within a couple of days of that cross, we had a big break. We could see that happen up here, and that may be our bearish return back down here. So that's a caution that you've got to be aware of. So let's move forward. Let's see what happens. And there's a bearish candle. And let's just keep moving this thing forward. Generally bullish, but always cautious about what could happen. Both lines moving flat, and the clouds starting to get thick. So again, somewhere mid-March, maybe we're looking at some consolidation coming into play. Big bullish candle, that's looking good, and we're right at the crossover point. So let's see if we get a bullish breakout. Oh, there's a shooting star, big shooting star. If you look to the left, your general technical analysis knowledge will tell you that that also is a resistance area. So that explains why we got so much selling pressure there. Next candle, some bullish candles there. Generally speaking, all things are pretty much bullish. We're above the clouds. We are making higher highs, higher lows. Things are looking fairly bullish here, although the clouds are getting pretty thick. So I'm thinking in mid-March something's going to happen that might be a little bit more sideways or neutral. And if we just run this thing forward, there's a big bearish candle as we get into the beginning of March here, a little bullish candle. And let's just run it forward and see what happens. And look at that. We've got a bullish trend that is shaping up. Okay, now it was a little bit, if you're narrowed in on the candles, it's, all things considered, that's a kind of choppy trend. But if you're looking at the big picture here, you're like, wow, I'm getting some really good bullish signals. I'm above the cloud, and it's a bullish trade, generally speaking. So we got some shooting stars coming into play here as we move into mid-March. I didn't get a lot of consolidation. We got some. I'm trying to speed it up here because I got two more of these to go through. We got some consolidation happening here, but let's just keep moving it forward and see what happens. There's a shooting star. Now, anytime you've been this far from the cloud, Notice how far we are from the cloud. We got a huge shooting star. You want to take note of that. It doesn't mean the trend's going to reverse, but that's a really good location for the trade to start slowing down. And you're going to start to see in locations like that, maybe we'll swing back down to the cloud and pick up support. Maybe we'll trade sideways, maybe over to the cloud or, close to it. But those are the kind of candle signals you really want to watch out for, especially when you're that far from the cloud, because that can be an imminent turning signal. And sure enough, we got a little bit of sell-off happen. There's some bearish candles coming in, some upper shadows. It looks like we are going to get some sideways to slightly bearish movements here. And there's some more bullishness coming in. The lines are heading up. We got some thickness coming in. I'm next going to be targeting mid-May, beginning of May, as some general consolidation. Somewhere between where we are and May is probably where consolidation is going to start picking up. Just like what we saw happen in March here, where we said by mid-March we should have some consolidation, and we did. You see that? The same thing is kind of happening here. We've got all this thick cloud starting to build up. This is a really great location for some consolidation to start to shape up. So let's see what happens here. Making some higher moves there. Bearish candles coming in. And we're very much moving kind of sideways bullish-ish. And so it's kind of moderately bullish. And that's exactly the signals that we're getting. Notice we've got a Senjou A going higher, Senjou B going flat. That's moderately bullish. And that's exactly what we're seeing in this trend. It's kind of moving sideways. We got, some general momentum kind of making higher highs, but mostly sideways-esque right around the cloud. I think that's a pretty good signal that we're getting there from the cloud thickness. All right, so let's see what happens. We're trading down to the cloud, picking up some support. That was one of the things we said might happen. And let's see if we actually get support or if we trade into the cloud. And so it looks like we're finding support right on the cloud. Again, Christy, I think that's a pretty compelling signal. You guys are pretty quiet, not because any reason other than I'm not really asking questions, but let me do a spot check here. What do you guys think? First of all, is this beneficial, seeing this shaping up? And secondly, are these some pretty good signals that we're getting? I think they're pretty good signals. And I think that, as you start to interpret them more, you're going to really appreciate them more. But, I like to spot check every once in a while here. Look, I think Karen's the only one that's talking. All right. Karen, let's keep going here. So interpreting the signals here, we're moving into the cloud. We got some support building up. We got more thickness coming up here. I think we may be getting into a top. We may be, you could sit here and draw a line and say, yeah, that would be a breakout line to go bullish. Or you may say that would kind of be the line where I might see some resistance coming back in. You can start to draw some conjecture here. We've had a really big move already. So let's move it forward and just see if we get any kind of breaks here. Your clouds in general are still relatively bullish. Some of them are moving in the same direction. But for the most part, we're getting a lot of flat Senjou B right now, which suggests that it's not as bullish. We got some strength challenges here. There's a bearish candle. Now, you also notice, if we look back here, that's a break of support. You also notice here's my challenge. I know so many different techniques that sometimes I can't help it. This is a head and shoulder. I mean, it's just flat out head and shoulders. So we have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen, right? Anyway, that's a head and shoulders formation. We just broke the neckline right there. That's not part of Ichimoku, but it's stronger than me, I had to tell you. All right, so now we've traded down to Senjou B. The question is, will we break below Senjou B, or will we find some support and maybe get stuck in the cloud or maybe rally out of here? So let's see what happens. We did break below it just a little bit there, but we got small spinning tops. It's not decisive. We are getting a cross over here in the future. Beginning of July, it looks like we got a shift in momentum, and look at that. We've got support building strongly right here. Look at this. So we're getting support at this base of Senjou B and kind of stuck right there between that Senjou B component and this one that we had back in May. So we're getting some support and resistance building up in there. All right, let's continue. And there's the buying pressure coming in. We're going to anticipate that we've got to break out of the cloud. Remember, if you're in the cloud, it is consolidation. It's just the fact that we entered from the top makes it more bullish, but in the cloud itself is still consolidation. Okay? So if we blend our techniques, which is not my intention here, but if we blend our techniques, there is a chance that we'll come back and test that neckline. So that's something we're going to have to pay attention to, and it also works with that cross. So that's pretty good possibility. But remember, the overall cloud is consolidation. Candles are suggesting we got some selling pressure here. Let's see what happens moving this sucker forward. Also notice without the clouds themselves, we're getting a very clear resistance building up right up in there. So the top of the clouds is representing resistance, and it's doing quite a dandy job, in my opinion, of doing so. I think that this is phenomenal to me, how these clouds really do structure up support and resistance moving forward. And notice we've not drawn any horizontal lines. We've not drawn any horizontal lines moving forward. Okay? Continuing here, we've got some small spinning tops building up there. Now there's some bearishness coming in. But again, just consolidation. Now, as I look at this, I'm seeing some concerns. So let me point out some concerns for you. Flat Senjou B, flat Senjou B. What do you think this could, looking to the left now, we've got a couple of months of consolidation. This could become some consolidation. And the risk, as we're going to look at, I can't remember if it's next class or class 4 now, but the risk is a sideways market. Because remember, the clouds are still built around a moving average concept. And moving averages are just difficult to trade during sideways markets. I think this is easier to trade than a typical moving average. But if we're moving into a sideways move, this could become a pain in the butt for the next who knows how many months here. So let's just see what we have. I'm pointing that risk out as we're moving forward. Okay, so as we move forward here, the candles dropping below the clouds. In general, that's bearish. We do have a flat Senjou B, but we're relatively bearish on the Senjou A line, and of course we're below the clouds here. So let's keep moving forward. I'm going to run out of time tonight if I don't haul butt. All right, this may be our big bearish break. So in general, I think that's a bearish break. The question would be, are we going to, retrace back to the cloud and then take off, or is this it? So we don't know the answer to that yet. We're just going to watch it here. But the clouds themselves, very bearish. They're not super thick. They're not anticipating a lot of consolidation right here, not in the super near future. So let's see what happens. That is, in general, a very good bearish signal. 1, 2, 3 lines. 1, 2, 3 white soldiers could be a bullish challenge. Okay, so this may be testing this whole area right here as a resistance, or we may just come right back up. Remember, we did have a lot of consolidation here, and let's see what happens here. Moving it forward. There's some bullish candles, and it looks like we're just kind of hovering right under that cloud. Remember, we tend to hover above the cloud, or we tend to hover below the cloud. We're more bearish if we've got the dark cloud hanging over us, and we're more bullish if we've got the clouds below us, and we're kind of floating on top. So obviously, this is a little bit more bearish. We've got the clouds building up above us here. And as we start to trade forward, let's see what happens here. Moving forward. Okay, we do have some crossing action. So this is typical of sideways moves. So there's a great experience for you guys. What a pain a sideways move is. It just so happened that we've got some sideways move happening here, but we did have 3 days where we broke below that general trading range. Okay, and moving forward in here, finding solid resistance at the top of Senjou. So you see that there. The top of the cloud is providing really solid resistance. It's more bearish than anything because of the way we entered the trade. Remember, when you enter the trade from the bottom, it's going to be more bearish. It's still consolidation, but it's more bearish than anything at that point. All right. Let's continue here. Moving it on forward. Okay, now we're crossing above the cloud. Remember that the line, the Senjou B, is kind of the crossover point. I'd like to get some more momentum there. Oh, there we go. Bears coming in. So I'm still pretty undecided about this trade. I don't think we've got a clear trend at all. We've got solid resistance happening there. It's happening around the clouds, which is exactly what we would anticipate. But we are above the clouds now. We just barely closed above the clouds, and clouds are turning blue, which is not itself a bullish signal, but it does show some momentum shift. We got that cross right there. I'm thinking the 1st of September may be where we get some sort of a break. Let's see what happens. Move this thing forward here. Kind of testing all that cloud area. Very much consolidation. Now, remember I told you in the preview that Ichimoku gives us signals of consolidation. And even though we didn't know exactly what this was going to look like moving forward, I was able to anticipate all the way back here in June, because of all this flatness, I was able to anticipate we may be getting into a period of consolidation. So I think that is a very powerful predictive signal. Consolidation is hard to predict, but there we're starting to get some signals, and I think that's beneficial for us. All right, let's continue moving forward here. And as we move forward, we're getting more and more buying pressure above the clouds. The clouds are flat with an angled upward Senjou A, so that is moderately bullish. I think if we break out above here, we're starting to look at more of a bullish trend shaping up. Let's see. Well, still stuck. We're just stuck. Look at that. I can't believe I picked the currency that we're going to be stuck on for 4 months. That would be my luck. Just not give us good signals at all. Actually, I think it's giving us great signals. But all right, so still continuing to be stuck there. Clouds starting to fatten up, indicating that we may be having even more consolidation. You see that? Boom, there's a big break. All right, now we're back below the clouds. And I think this was actually a good signal. We didn't actually get a big breakout. Instead, we're just moving sideways. And now you can look at this in hindsight and say, wow, it was 1, 2, 3, 4 months of sideways move. And, we got some mixed signals from the clouds, but that's what we would expect with a sideways move. Wouldn't you guys expect anything less than that? It's exactly what we would expect, okay? So let's move forward from September. Let's see if we can we trade right up, get a long upper shadow right at the bottom of Senjou B. And as we move forward here with bearish candles, we're coming back into this bottom level here, well below the clouds. The clouds are starting to cross over here. But again, the signal is not the cloud cross. The signal is the price having crossed Senjou B. We did that. And so this is much more bearish than anything at this moment. There we go. Look at that break. Okay, so we got a big break there. And let's see, boom, look at this. I mean, both lines are heading down. We got some bearishness happening here. Someone's central bank must have said something, probably central bank brilliant. And boom, there's our hammer. Okay, so we got a hammer candle after a really big bearish break. Now, how many of you think a hammer after a big bearish break, even though everything's looking bearish, how many of you think that's a good signal that maybe consolidation or a sideways move is coming up here? That's a pretty good indication that something's about to happen. So let's see what happens as we continue trading this forward. Moving it forward, we're making some lower moves here. Clouds are starting to thicken, so this may give us an indication of where consolidation may take place. It may be towards the end of October. May go ahead and get some more bearishness in here. And there it is, bullish engulfing. So big hammer candle, big bullish engulfing. I bet if we looked at oscillators, we're probably getting some sort of a of a divergence, a bullish divergence. Just traded too many of these things. All right, bullish candle coming in there. There it is. There's our consolidation starting to fatten up. You see that. All building a new support in here. By the way, look left. Look to the left. I failed to do this for you, but look where that is. Holy crap. I mean, it was almost like Mr. Ichimoku Sanjin himself had come in here and drawn support for us. Look at that. I think that is a pretty compelling signal that we get, especially as we learn to interpret the clouds moving forward. So let's keep coming forward here. Looking like a lot of supports building, very thick clouds, now some bullish candles coming in. Now remember, we don't want to trade bullish against the trend, so this would be one of those moments where if you're in a currency trade, you're waiting for new bearish signals. If you're in a stock trade, maybe you're doing some option selling. Because obviously we got a lot of consolidation. And look how fat the cloud's getting, and look how fat the consolidation is starting to get. So we may be at the bottom here, and we may start to get at the bottom a lot of what we had back up here at the top in May and June. And by the way, that's fairly typical with currency. With currency, you often move from one general zone to another zone and then kind of consolidate for several months. So let's see what happened here. As we move it forward, bingo, look at that. We got a long upper shadow right on the bottom of the cloud, and the cloud continues to suppress the price down. I would anticipate at this point that either we will get into the cloud and continue sideways, or we'll start to actually get some more selling pressure coming in here. That would be my anticipation at this point. And so, boom, we're pushing into the cloud. It's getting very dark. We're right in the cloud now, right up, pushing up into Senjou B. But whoa! All right, another central bank announcement. That was a big old candle. All right, move this sucker forward, and boom, there's some bearishness. And pushing back up into the bottom of the cloud. There's all that consolidation. Now tell me, how timely was that signal? Remember, I told you back here in October that around the end of October there was a good chance for consolidation. And holy crap, we got a big old month and a half's worth of consolidation. I think that is a forecasting tool. I think that is a forecasting tool that is worth, working with. And when we can see those big clouds coming, maybe we say, hey, I should tighten my stops. I should be prepared for consolidation. If we get no signal other than the fact that we can anticipate consolidation better, I think as a trend trader, that's a valuable signal. Would you guys agree with that? Let's continue here. I think we may just be stuck. I think we may be done. Let's see here. We got the lines coming back in. We may get some more momentum here. Yep, there we go. We're making some lower moves. Both lines are heading down now, both lines of the cloud, and the cloud is getting thinner. So maybe it's time that we break out of this thing. Let's see what happens here. Some more volatility in there. Obviously, you don't want too tight of a stop. You'd be losing your pips on this. Oh, there's the big breakdown. All right. And as we move into December, let's see what's happening on this trade. I chose this one because I don't trade this currency pair, the Aussie dollar against the Canadian dollar. It's not one that I look at very often, so that's why I chose this one. And there we go. All right. There's a year's worth of analysis and observation. We were not trying to pick buying signals. We're not trying to pick selling signals. Rick, all we're doing here is learning to see the signals as they shape up. Because remember, this is only a third of the overall cloud system. How many of you think this is valuable? And if you don't think it's valuable, then what I'd like to challenge you with is test that assumption a little bit. Because when you're learning a new anything, the best way to learn it is to come in and chunk it out and really kind of fine-tune the individual signals. Only then can we come behind it and start to apply the specific signals that we get in conjunction. Realize with the Ichimoku and candles combined, it's like taking 3 or 4 analysis disciplines and putting it all into one screen. So we're analyzing trend data, we're analyzing support and resistance data, we're analyzing future data, we're analyzing current data and historical data, as well as candle turning signals. that's like looking at a whole bunch of stuff at once. And so that's why if we can break it down and you will take the discipline to go through this and practice this. I mean, honestly, if you do nothing over the weekend, but what we just did here on about 10 different trades, you're going to start to interpret that candle data a lot better. And it's going to start to come cleaner for you.